Battleground momentum. New numbers showing the Harris-Walz ticket is gaining ground.
Vice President Harris gaining momentum.
Momentum in some key states.
This morning, Vice President Kamala Harris gaining momentum.
Gaining momentum.
Gaining momentum.
Gaining momentum.
But look, this momentum, keeping the momentum.
Harris's momentum.
Harris's momentum.
You can't slow down the momentum.
It's remarkable momentum.
Mission number one is create the momentum and then keep the momentum. What does momentum look like in the polls?
Kamala Harris is doing two things here. Number one, momentum, and number two, momentum. But take a look here. Clear momentum.
So momentum it is today.
Momentum it is.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Can't wait to talk to Curtis and Reagan about this. Joining me now, Curtis Houck, Managing Editor, Media Research Center, and Reagan Reese, wonderful White House correspondent for the Daily Caller. Curtis, I'm trying to figure this out. Obviously, they did have momentum, I should say. I don't know if they've maintained it, but did they have genuine momentum, or was this a media-created momentum that then the media reported on the momentum they themselves created? I can't figure out what exactly I'm looking at.
Well, Jesse, to borrow a term from Nancy Pelosi, I would say what's going on is AstroTurf, one could say. We looked at the media coverage in the campaign, and it's not surprisingly been astronomical. I mean, yes, the Trump coverage was 89% negative. That's a little bit lower than what we've seen during the Trump presidency, when I'd be on with you talking about 92, 93, 94% negative. But the Kamala Harris number is just simply astonishing. That we came out with back on August 19th. Kamala was at 84% positive coverage on ABC, CBS, and NBC. And we also did a poll in August finding that looking at what of Democratic voters, so basically Biden voters, people who are going to vote for Kamala Harris, what do you know about what she believes in terms of policies? And we looked at 10 different things, everything from defunding the police to abolishing ICE to wanting to have a conversation about whether death row inmates could vote. And it was all of those issues polled above 70% unaware. So her own voters don't even know what she's for. So obviously, therefore, the media just have to create all these buzzwords around her. And I guess they're also scared. They're so scared of Donald Trump, they're willing to go with someone who, dropped out even before a single vote was cast in the Hawkeye.
Reagan, I hate to say this, but doesn't all those numbers Curtis just laid out, doesn't that mean the strategy Democrats are running for Harris is actually the smart one and the right one? Just hide her under a desk somewhere, let the media campaign for her, don't let her open up her mouth, because then everyone will find out she's an idiot, and just see if you can make your way into the White House that way. Isn't this the smart strategy?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the basement campaign we saw from President Biden in 2020. She hasn't come out and said, here are the issues that I'm running on. And this is a candidate that's so desperate to separate herself from President Biden. But at the end of the day, she really doesn't have to separate herself or make a, grand reveal of her policy platforms, because, like Curtis mentioned, the media is doing it for her. We don't have to look much further than how the media is covering Trump and Harris and the same issues that they've brought forward. So if we look at this no tax on tips proposal, CBS covered this and was like, oh, look at how Harris is fighting for the American workers. That same proposal, which Donald Trump brought forth first, they covered how much it was going to cost the American taxpayers. The same could be said for this child tax credit. Harris, it was, oh, look, from CNBC, look at how she's really fighting for American families and children. And when they covered the same topic from Vice President, or soon to be maybe Vice President J.D. Vance, it was, oh, look at how he might rob families. Look at how much this is going to cost, again, the American people. Completely different framing. And that right there is campaigning for the Harris administration.
Curtis, so I'm trying to understand the Tim Walz stolen valor coverage, because I've actually been shocked. I've seen networks like CNN bring it up. Now, I know it's not wall-to-wall coverage like even completely invented Trump scandals, but they have brought it up. Did they report on this fairly?
No, I don't think so, Jesse. I think what they've done is they've oversimplified this. They've boiled it down to the single soundbite of him talking about wanting to curb weapons of war that I carried in war. That one soundbite, instead of talk about these other issues, these issues talking about deployment, issues talking about the way he characterized his service, that he served in Operation Enduring Freedom, the issues regarding his rank, for example. I mean, those are just a few other examples of stories that have been written about this, and they've largely buried it. ABCnews.com did a 2,000-word story back on, I believe, August 16th, doing a story about this, and yet it wasn't mentioned on any of their newscasts. Imagine being a reporter there, two of their senior researchers doing this long piece about how a lot of people who served with Tim Walz are very unhappy with him, and this dates back to his campaign. Things like his DUI arrest, which CNN has covered, but kind of buried on Friday nights, Saturday mornings. Those things are being mentioned, but they're just being very quickly discarded. In the network coverage that we've seen, it's been 62% positive for Tim Walz and 92% negative for J.D. Vance.
Oh, of course it is. Reagan, I want to talk about a piece you wrote, wonderful piece for the Daily Caller, about Dome editing headlines, using Google to edit headlines. How exactly does one even do this? I know you don't have to explain it to me. I'm too old, but what?
I know. The Harris campaign was paying for ads. They were sponsoring ads, and they were changing headlines and descriptions of news articles to make it seem like these articles, these publications were in favor of them. I think that in of itself is egregious, but what has been even more egregious to me is the media's response to this. Of these outlets that were being used by the Harris campaign, so The Guardian, The Independent, CNN, USA Today, all of them just said, oh, we had no idea this was happening. There's only one outlet that has the guts, the courage to stand up to the Harris campaign and consider legal action, and that's a local outlet in North Dakota. The president of that outlet previously told the Daily Caller that he was planning on filing litigation, potentially suing the Harris campaign for misrepresenting their headlines and their articles. And so far, I believe it's been crickets from all these other outlets, this mainstream media, and it's egregious that the media is going to let the Harris campaign get away with this.
No doubt. Curtis, all right, I got to wrap by asking you this. We're kind of we move on past things that are a really, really, really big deal. The media covered for Joe Biden and his mental decline for years, and now they're simply going to praise him and powder his butt at the convention and send him off into the sunset, pretending like he was some kind of wonderful thing. These people lied to the American people for years and then acted like they were somehow assaulted by this administration when the news finally came out.
Yeah, we had no idea, Jesse. You see this all the time. These reporters say, we didn't interview him. We didn't have press conferences, so we didn't know that these things were going on. I mean, give me a break. I mean, Reagan and I know this, you know this, that reporters and White House officials have quite the incestuous relationship. This happens on both sides of the aisle. Unfortunately, there's always people inside Republican administrations as well that are constantly leaking. They're buddies with reporters. They're getting drinks. They're getting breakfast. They're going to brunch together. There's zero chance that any of this wasn't known to any of them, especially if given how incestuous and intertwined people's personal lives are professionally. There's no doubt about this at all. So for them to play shocked, I mean, it's pathetic. It's childish.
It is, but at the same time, it's also kind of understandable when it comes to brunch. Reagan, are you a brunch fan? I'm a huge brunch fan.
I do like brunch, especially in DC. There's a lot of, maybe bottomless brunch places you can go around here. To Curtis's point real fast, let's pretend the media was angry, genuinely angry at the White House administration for hiding Biden's decline. They should fuel that anger into getting an interview with Kamala Harris. And I think it's quite ridiculous that they haven't pressed harder after pretending like they were just hoodwinked.
That's a very fair point. Curtis, Reagan, thank you both. I appreciate you. All right. We have more on this with Krakauer. Steve Krakauer. Next. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.